Hi everybody, in this video today we're going to talk mainly about how to use matrices to solve systems of equations. And this is found on page 31 in your notes. It actually goes with lesson 6 that was about identity inverses and determinants, and we're just continuing on with that, but we're talking about how to use matrices to solve systems. And so for instance, we have a matrix here, we have a system here. We know how to do substitution and elimination, and we could do that to solve this system. However, as we get more complex, as you know, we're getting to 3 variable systems. And so as things start to get more complex, we can use our calculator and use matrices to solve them, which makes life a lot easier. So first of all, how to do that is we have to write the system as a matrix equation in the form A times x plus b. And that's like what we were doing last week, where this was matrix A multiplied by matrix X is equal to matrix B. And when we do that, we're going to have one matrix. The A matrix is going to be the coefficient matrix. The second matrix is going to be the matrix of the variables. And then the last matrix, which we will call matrix B, will be the matrix of the constants. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, I'm going to rewrite this system to look like this. Here's where I'm getting these numbers from. 2 and 5, 1 and 3. That's where the 2, 5, 1, 3 came from. It's from the coefficients in this system. And then we call, I need to fix this. We need to make that an xy. So the second one is our matrix of the variables, which are x and y, and then finally the matrix of the constants, which is over here, the 3 and the 2. So I just took the pieces of this matrix, or this system, and put it into a matrix form. Okay, I'm going to go into my calculator. I'm going to put in 2, 5, 1, 3 in for matrix A, and then I'm going to find the inverse of matrix A. So I'm just going to set this up here so I'm ready for it. Okay, so I'm going to go into my calculator. I'm going to go to second matrix edit. So go over to edit. And we're going to make it a 2 by 2, and we're going to call it 2, 5, 1, 3, because that was the coefficient matrix that we just set up on the other page. I'm going to quit out of here. And now I'm going to find what is the inverse of that matrix. So I'm going to go to second matrix names, and I'm going to say A. And I want the inverse of it, enter. I'm going to write this down, 3, -5, -1, 2. Okay, now I'm going to put in this matrix into my calculator, in for B. So I'm going to go to second matrix, edit, B. And I'm going to put in the matrix 2 by 1, and it is 3, 2 is the name of this matrix. All right, I'm going to quit out of here. And so now remember what we learned is we are going to take the inverse of A, multiply it on the left-hand side of the equation, and we're going to take the inverse of A and multiply it on the right-hand side of the equation. And when we do that, we know that the inverse of A times A, basically, it's like dividing by it. It gets rid of it. That's the whole reason we're doing it. And so we're left on the left-hand side, we're left with just the xy variable matrix. Now we do need to multiply this on the right, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back to my calculator, and I'm going to type in the inverse of A times matrix B. So I'm going to go to second matrix names A, inverse, times second matrix names B. And it says -1, 1. And so I write that down. What this means is you go to the corresponding positions and you say x is -1 and y is +1. And so my solution is going to be -1, 1. Now that process might have been easier, or maybe not, as just doing a elimination or substitution. Like, a lot of us are pretty decent at elimination substitution, and we maybe could have gotten that a lot easier just by doing it by hand, because there's so many keystrokes to get those matrices in there. However, I think you can see that once we get into x, y, z, we get into 3 variables, this can make our life much easier. Okay, so that's how you use matrices to set up a system and solve a system. we're going to write a couple things down in our summary. And actually, our summary is covering quite a few videos. I broke up this section of notes into 3 or 4 videos. So we have studied how to find the identity matrix. Remember, the identity matrix is the one that has the zeros and ones only. It's the one that looks like this. We learned how to use a calculator to find the inverse matrix. So that's like when we find the matrix of A inverse. And then we talked about how to use that inverse matrix to solve equations. And finally, of course, order does matter in matrix multiplication. Okay, so these are some of the things we've learned. I feel like we've learned a lot, but those are some things that you could write down in your summary so that you remember how to do some of these things. You might get a little bit more specific in your summary. But that is the end of this video on how to set up matrices to solve systems.